Alright guys, here we go. We are at the end of the Monster Venom wave with Monster Venom himself, and since there is no packaging for this guy, we're going to jump right into it. Now at the end of this review, if you have been compelled to snatch this or any of these figures up, check out BigBadToyStore.com. I will put a link down below where you can get these guys. Now, this is a Build-A-Figure that I honestly had no expectations of really caring about. But once I got these figures in my hand and put this guy together, I was pretty much turned right around. This thing is far cooler than I had ever expected it to be. And it is also pretty darn massive too. So let's take a look at how he moves around as far as articulation goes, because, you know, it's a Build-A-Figure. He's a big, chunky guy, so that kind of presents some issues on its own. But let's see how he moves, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself. So as far as articulation goes, he's not anything too crazy. He's pretty standard for what you might expect to get for a figure of this size. The head is capable of moving up and down. It's a pretty tight joint though, all things considered. He can look up really far, and he can also look down pretty far as well. So you can get his like lower jaw right into the base of his neck there, into the chest almost. So he does have decent range of motion. Obviously the head sculpt on its own is a little limiting because he can only go so far, but it's better than I thought it might be. You can rotate all the way around, and then he's got a little bit of side-to-side action, but not much. But the head is usually kind of forward-facing, so you're mostly just kind of rotating all the way around. So you kind of have to do play a game of angles almost to try to get the right look with him. A lot of it hinges, literally and figuratively, on the way you move that neck joint around. So arms can go all the way out. It is a Build-A-Figure piece, so watch out when you're moving them. You might pop them out. Spin, bicep swivel, single joint at the elbow, but it's pretty much 90 degrees. It doesn't go all the way out though, but about 90. I'd say that's 90. And then you've got hinges at the wrist. They have a little bit of motion, not tons, and then full rotation. The crunch on this guy is pretty interesting. He can go straight up, so, you know, fully erect there, standing up, and then he hunches all the way over. So you can get some really imposing poses with this guy when you hunch him over like that. Waist twist. Legs go out pretty far. I don't know that he's going to be doing splits like that on my shelf. We can go forward on the kick. We can go back a little bit. Thigh cut, double jointed knee. It's a really tight, ratchety type joint. And then we've got a sort of a shin. It's mostly kind of a high ankle rocker or a cut there. And then you can rock at the ankle. And then he's also got hinges for those feet. Plenty of motion there. So he honestly does move around pretty well. I've gotten him into some pretty good menacing style poses. And yeah, I mean, he moves a little better than I had expected him to. The only thing is that you can't kind of rock him backwards on that crunch, but it's not really a limiting factor. He honestly is better articulated than I ever expected a figure of this size to be. Now, where this guy truly shines for me, both literally and figuratively, I suppose, is in his look and feel, you know, the sculpt and the paint on this guy, because it is a very striking Build-A-Figure. I think this is one of the better Build-A-Figures we've gotten in recent history. I will say right off the bat that I'm not 100% confident on what the source material for this guy is supposed to be. I don't know of a Monster Venom. I know Matt Gargan Venom looked like this in some way. That's similar to the emblem on his chest, the spider logo. He was also very, very large, but I don't specifically remember him being called Monster Venom. If somebody knows for sure, please let me know, but I don't know that that's truly what it is, but that seems to kind of be a consensus among collectors out there. That doesn't truly matter to me. I don't care. He's humongous. He's cool. He's really beefy. I like pretty much everything about this figure. You can see he's got a nice kind of marbly, metallic blue-black sheen going on. It catches the light very well. He is covered in musculature. He's just enormous. He's got that humongous spider logo on the front, on the back, and then we've got little tendrils popping out on the arms and on the back. This head sculpt is pretty fantastic, and while I do really, really like it, if I had one suggestion for this figure is that somehow we could have gotten an extra head, a non-screaming head, you know, just to change it up a bit, but this thing does the job really, really well. Painted very nice. We've got the gums in there, all the striations on that tongue, and it kind of corkscrews out of his mouth. We've got those nasty teeth, the very venomized style eyes, and in general, he just looks really imposing and just mean and menacing, and I really, really dig everything about this figure. You know, he's so big that you had to actually put the torso together. It's two pieces. You get it with Spider Ham. I mentioned that in the review for that little guy. But yeah, this is a very, very stout figure. He's got 2 different pose hands. You can fit a Spider-Man head in this hand if you are so inclined, and then you've got a more open style hand here. He isn't, however, necessarily as big as you might think he is, at least height-wise. He is pretty tall. You know, he's standard Build-A-Figure height, but here he is next to Apocalypse. You can see Apocalypse is actually taller than Monster Venom, and this is when he's standing fully up. A lot of times, you know, you'll have him hunched over. So just a quick comparison to show you that he is really, really big, but he may not be as tall as you think he is. He's incredibly thick and girthy and beefy, and that's really what does it for me, is that he is humongous while not necessarily being very tall. And here is our full Monster Venom wave lineup. So I've been doing this recently when I complete waves, doing a quick little chat about the full wave in general and give you kind of ranking on what I like from top to bottom. In general, I think this wave is incredibly strong, stronger than I had expected it to be. There are a couple oddities about it, one small miss, no pun intended, but in general I've been very happy with it. There are some figures that are obviously better than others. This Build-A-Figure was a humongously positive surprise for me. So let's take a look at what I consider from bottom to top my ranking for this wave. Now at the bottom is of course going to be the one that you obviously know just based on my review and my kind of thoughts on this in general, is Spider-Ham here. I just don't think he was worthy of a spot at full retail price. You know, he's okay for what he is. There are certainly better articulated figures of this size out in spades, really. So it is kind of an odd inclusion, and like I mentioned in my review, I kind of figure he's a cost savings thing in some fashion. Honestly, from here on up, this is actually pretty difficult because a lot of these figures I like very, very similarly. Even though one of them is obviously odd in terms of its placement in this wave, but I still dig a lot of these figures. So I'm just going to go kind of off the top of my head right now how I'm feeling it. And at number 6, we're going to go with Poison. That's mostly because I don't really know anything about it. I don't have a lot of attachment to this character, but the figure honestly is pretty solid. That's why I say from here on up, most of these figures are pretty good no matter where they rank. Next is going to be Typhoid Mary, and it's just because, you know, there are so many other better figures in this wave. She is really solid though, and I think she looks really nice. I think in general she's the odd one out though, because look at this lineup and then look at her. She looks like she doesn't belong. Then we're going to go with the new Venom figure, mostly because I've already got one. He doesn't bring anything really new to the table, and what they tried to bring new to the table with that extra Eddie Brock head doesn't necessarily work, and I'm still not sure how I'm going to implement it. Then we're going to go with Scream here. I've long been a fan of these symbiotes for sure, and I've just really been looking forward to these. You know, we got Lasher previously, now we've got Scream. I think she looks pretty solid, dig the paint job, overall like the design. Then with number 2, we are going to go with my boy Carnage back here. Everything they did on him, you know, kind of raised the bar for this particular figure, and he's a longtime favorite. But unsurprisingly, or maybe surprisingly, depending on how you view my opinion on this guy, this Build-A-Figure, Monster Venom, is my favorite aspect of this entire wave. I absolutely love playing around with this figure. It's really fun to take pictures with. He's huge. He's imposing. He is a large, monstrous version of one of my favorite Marvel villains. So how could you go wrong? And it's implemented very well. Paint's great. Sculpt is great. He's well articulated. He's easy to pose and balance. He doesn't fall over even though he's so humongous and top heavy. It's just a great figure, and I've been very surprised not only with this particular Build-A-Figure, but with how strong the majority of this wave has been, even though it was one that I didn't think was going to wow me so much. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that I really dig this Build-A-Figure. If it wasn't for the fact that we already got Apocalypse, I would say this is my favorite BAF of the year. In terms of this wave, this thing is the strongest for sure, but I still think Apocalypse is going to edge him out just because, come on, it's Apocalypse, and I'm always a mutant guy first. But this wave in general is really strong except for Spider-Ham, and, you know, I'm not going to harp on that anymore. The BAF is fantastic. I really dig it. It's just a cool, new, different version of Venom. It's imposing, it's menacing, it's well done in pretty much every aspect, and it's surrounded by a pretty strong, mostly Spider-Man cast of characters, and we got 3 extra symbiote characters in this wave, 2 of which have been pretty sought after reissues with new updates, so you really can't go wrong here. So that's going to do it for this look at the Monster Venom Build-A-Figure and wave from Hasbro. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.